Hi everyone, Dr. Roadhouse here. Welcome to the Dr. B show. This is the third show that we've done for covering the thyroid. We're going to be doing an intense, in-depth coverage of the thyroid today, kind of putting everything together. If you missed any of the previous talks on the thyroid, we've kind of broken it down. This is the third talk. We're putting everything together, so you can go to YouTube, and I have a page there, a channel for the Ask Dr. B show. This is episode 3. We have episode 2 and 1 concerning the thyroid. We also have a couple other videos on there. But anyway, while we're getting ready, I'd like to thank a couple people for sharing Rod Guerin in the U.S. Virgin Islands. They shared it. I appreciate that. We've reached a lot of different areas. Pat Schwope, she just the team chiropractor for the Tulsa Oilers, the Center Hockey League. I've been on the medical staff providing chiropractic care when the PGA Championships were at Southern Hills. I was on the USGA medical staff providing chiropractic care when they were at Southern Hills also. So anyway, the other practice that I have is a functional medicine and functional neurology practice, and that's basically taking care of patients that have autoimmune conditions, peripheral neuropathy, hypothyroid, autoimmune thyroid, and irritable bowel syndrome. So anyway, that kind of gives you an idea on the kind of patients that we're looking for. So anyway, you know, we talked about the forgotten thyroid patients, and the happy thyroid patient is the one that has primary hypothyroidism. That's the only one of the 6 patterns of thyroid dysfunction that responds to medicine. Doesn't make any difference if it's Synthroid, Levo, Westroid, Nature. The thyroid medicine, basically you go in, they check you, yeah, you have the symptoms, they do the lab test, okay, your TSH is high, which means you're hypothyroid. They give you the medicine, they go, oh, let's try this medicine, we'll start with maybe 20 micrograms, come back in about 3 months. 3 months you come back and go, hey, things are doing better, okay, we're doing good, we'll keep you right at that dosage, let's check again in 6 months. Usually by about a year, then all your symptoms are gone. And you remember that from the first 2 talks that the thyroid communicates with every cell in the body. So for everything else to work right, the thyroid really has to work right. Some of the effects of thyroid, you know, I mean, you're going to have some memory issues. You can even have some brain fog. You can have some balance issues. You're going to have reflux, possibly intestinal bloating after you eat. You can have some problems with cramping, constipation, diarrhea that moves around. You're going to have problems losing weight. You can have heart palpitations. You can have depression. The thyroid affects so many other parts of the body that the symptoms you can get are wide, and you can have small amount of symptoms or you can have large amount of symptoms depending on where you are in the process. You usually start out with small symptoms where it's like you're not really sure if you have a thyroid problem, you might not be sleeping good, your energy might be off, you might have some stomach discomfort, and then as time progresses it gets worse and worse. So then you start going through the process of going to doctors, and the first stop might be your family doctor. You might go to gynecologists if you're a female. You might end up going to endocrinologists. But basically the way that they treat is if the TSH is between 0.35 and 4.5 or 5.0, you have to go by the lab values, and they're all different by the lab that you use. So if you use a lab and it's 0.50 to 5.0 and you're at 4.9, technically they don't have hypothyroidism, but yet common sense would tell you that if in the middle is 1.8 to 3.0, which is optimum, and you're at 4.9, it can't work as good as it would be if it was in the middle. I had one patient that came in and they had their labs for every year. They went back for 5 years. It was 0.51. The doctor circled it and said borderline. Never did anything for them because they can't do anything if the TSH is not off. So if it's off, then they can use the medicine. So if it works, that's fine, because then that means you don't need to seek any other treatment. Everything is good. But if you're still having problems, chances are you're either dealing with autoimmune or you're dealing with one of the other 6 patterns of thyroid dysfunction where it doesn't work properly, and they all have different causes. Or there's 28 identifiable factors that can affect thyroid function. There's several medicines, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, that can affect the thyroid function. So you're going to be normal when you do the test, but you're going to have some of the symptoms because of that. So we look at all those things so we can figure everything out. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the labs that we do. So we didn't get to cover this last time, but we do 10 tests on the labs. And if you've learned anything from watching, you know that I don't really have good handwriting, and Jessica has awesome handwriting. So that's why I had to write this out, because we would have never been able to read this if I'd have done this. But anyway, these are the labs we do. So these are 10 tests on the thyroid. Most doctors don't know about these tests. We have one more test, which is TSI, which is antibodies, that we test if we think you have Graves' disease. Graves' disease is going to have a whole different picture. You're going to be slender. You're going to have a lot of the same symptoms, but you're going to have more anxiety than you are depression. You're going to start getting some bulging of the eyes, and it's autoimmune because you're going to be going to doctor, and you can't really figure out what's going on with you. So then we would do that, so there's actually more tests. But these are the tests that we do, and the reason we do these tests is because if you're not primary hypothyroid, these tests here tell us what pattern of thyroid dysfunction that could be causing your problem. So we put that together. So anyway, you can see based on the labs that we use here, 0.45 to 4.5 is the normal on the TSH. So anything at 4.6, then technically the doctor could prescribe you levothyroxine or any of the other thyroid medicines. And if that takes care of symptoms, fine, you don't need us. If not, then we're going to look at all these other tests right here. These are the 2 antibodies for Hashimoto's, and they all give us ideas as to where the problem is coming from. So anyway, hopefully the labs, the main point I want to get across here is we don't just do TSH, and we don't just do T3 and T4. There's other ways to test T3s and T4s. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about how the thyroid functions. So, you're going to get to see some of my handwriting here. So this is the hypothalamus, okay? And it sends thyroid releasing hormone to the pituitary. Okay? The pituitary then says TSH to the thyroid. Thyroid produces T3, T4, and LH, luteinizing hormone. So, when you have this situation here, if the pituitary is not working right, which is one of the functions where it's sluggish, it might not send as much TSH there. The TSH might be off. You try the medicine, it doesn't work. That's one of the other patterns. Okay? So, when you get these 3 hormones right here, T3, this is 7%, 93%. This T4 is inactive. Luteinizing hormone, this is for the sex hormones. So a lot of the females that have a thyroid problem, if you look at the hormone issues, menopause, all that stuff, they look a lot similar. So what ends up occurring is if it's all these female hormone issues are coming from the thyroid, when we work on this, those go away. If they don't, then we might have to do something with regulating the hormones for the female patient. So anyway, this T3, T4 has to be converted to T3. You need an enzyme called TPO. Now you remember down there on the lab work, we checked TPO. So if that's not working right, that enzyme can't convert T4 to T3. So, does taking levothyroxine, Synth, or anything like that help when the TPO enzyme is not working properly to get it from T4 to T3? No. So when you have this situation, that's why the medicine's not going to work. So now there is T thyroid binding globule. And it is going to transport the T4 to several different areas where it has to be converted. So 60% of it is going to be liver, 20% intestine, 20% brain, kidney, and muscles. Okay, so how can these be affected? Because the TPG, so if the TPG, if there's not enough TPG or there's too much TPG, is taking levothyroxine, Synthroid, or any of those other medicines going to help with the TPG either not being enough or being too much? No, it won't work. So they're not going to respond to the medicine. So what I'm trying to point out to you is that the reason that when you have you're taking the levothyroxine or Synthroid and it's not working, it's probably one of these other issues. So now the TPG, let's say the TPG is working, the TPO is working, and we got to get it over here to the liver. Well, let's say that the patient has been taking Humira because they're autoimmune, or they might be taking some of the other medicines that they say, hey, every so often you need to get your liver checked to make sure the liver enzymes are working right. So you could have a fatty degenerative liver. You could have a liver that's sluggish, it's overworked because of all the toxins. You might have worked in an area where you were exposed to chemicals. This is the detoxifier. It helps detoxify all those chemicals. And if it has a big load on it, then it's not going to work right. Let's say that you're a thyroid patient and you have thyroid symptoms and you had your gallbladder removed. So gallbladder is supposed to produce bile to help emulsify fat. So you get your gallbladder removed, who's going to do that? Liver. It's going to produce lipase. Adrenals are going to produce amylase. Those two things have to do all the other things they're working on, but they also have to emulsify fat. So that's going to be a load on them. So part of the problem is the liver is not functioning up to par, so it can't convert T4 to T3. So it's taking levothyroxine, Synthroid, or any of those going to help if the liver's not working in helping to convert the T4 to T3? No, it isn't. So let's say now that we're going to try to convert the rest of it, 20% in the intestine. So let's say that the patient has reflux. Let's say that the patient has leaky gut, intestinal permeability issues. Let's say the patient has colitis, Crohn's, and it's inflamed. If it's inflamed, you're going to have malabsorption, and if it's not working properly, this is not going to be able to convert the T4 to T3. So is taking levothyroxine, Synthroid going to help that? No, it's not. I know this is being repetitive, but I'm trying to explain to you. If you have a thyroid problem and you're taking the medicine, you're not getting better, there's a different way to look at that. Okay? So the next part is going to be, okay, we need some help. Let's see if we can get some of this T4 converted T3 in the brain, kidney. Let's say that part of the patients that we treat, the brain isn't functioning properly. We do tests for the cerebellum, we put our patients on oxygen, and we do activation, brain activations to get the brain working right. So if there's a lot of inflammation in the brain, it's not going to work, it can't be converted. Is, again, levothyroxine, Synthroid going to help the brain convert T4 to T3? No, it isn't. And then, here's the biggie. Most of the patients don't respond to medicine. They have ongoing symptoms. They've been going to doctor, have autoimmune. Whether it's autoimmune condition where they have symptoms just like it, but they don't have the antibodies, or they actually have the antibodies. Then is levothyroxine, Synthroid going to help with that? No, because this is the problem with the immune system mistakenly attacking the thyroid right here. So that medicine is not going to help with that. Okay, so now hopefully you'll understand that when you take TSH and you're not getting any symptomatic improvement, you're even if they bring your TSH back normal, by giving you the medicine, but if you still have the symptoms, something else is going on. There are times when you have autoimmune patient that can have primary hypothyroidism, and they do have to take levo or Synthroid with it. That's the kind of patient that they'll come in and they'll say, I'm taking levo, or I'm taking Synthroid, and I'm a little bit better. One of the indications that a patient is autoimmune is they give them armor, which is natural. You can actually develop antibodies to that because levo and Synthroid are synthetic, and they can't do that. So if you've taken armor and you've actually felt worse with armor, you're probably autoimmune. So anyway, after that, you can see right here, okay, so we've got a lot of problems here, why it's not being, the T3, T4 is not being converted. So let's say, it's not converted here. You can get T3, and they can give that, and it's gonna raise up your T3. The problem with that is that now this hypothalamus is not going to send as much thyroid-releasing hormone to the pituitary gland to produce much TSH because you're getting an exogenous source of T3. So you might get some temporary improvement with that, or maybe even improve your symptoms for a short while, but then they're going to come back again because this whole problem of check and balances with the brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the thyroid is not going to be working right. So anyway, I hope that helps you to understand why you're taking medicine, you're not getting better. There's so many other factors. And we've taken care of 3 generations, mother, daughter, and granddaughter, and they had some of the similar things, but they're all different. I mean, every case is unique. So anyway, now that we're done with this, now we're going to go and review what happened last week as far as, the different patterns of thyroid dysfunction. And in those patterns of thyroid dysfunction, what we found is that they're all going to have problems relating to the liver, the intestine, the brain, the adrenal glands. The hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis can get out of kilter. If you're under a lot of stress, you're going to produce cortisol. Cortisol is the body's response to stress. But when you have just 2 or 3, like a lot of the patients that come and they go, I've just had 2 or 3 years where I just had constant stress, and it seems like my health has declined ever since. Because cortisol is going to affect the way that the body works. It doesn't work good when cortisol's in. It responds to stress, cortisol goes up, but it's supposed to go back down again. When it stays up here like this, blood sugar can't be maintained. And speaking about blood sugar, we want to keep it around, 60 to 75, well not 60, but 70, 75, 80 in that area. Well, one of the tests that we do, because a lot of times patients will come in, we'll do their blood work on them, and they might be at 75. Well, we do the A1C, which gives us a 30-day average, and all of a sudden, it's 5.7, 5.8, which is pre-diabetic or insulin resistance. So that one time and space where they get their blood work done and their blood sugar is good, that's not good enough. We need it because most of these patients are going to go, and when we have the patients or prospective patients fill out all the questions, then we can start seeing, look, they're having blood sugar issues. They're going to have adrenal, cortisol issues. They're going to have intestinal issues. So for those patients, we have to identify what's causing the problem, what pattern or patterns of thyroid dysfunction, and are they autoimmune? And if they are, then we have to start a program to get them better. So I want to go back to, we went over the labs that we covered here, but I want to cover some of the other labs that we do. We use the Cyrex testing, and the Cyrex testing, you can go to cyrexlabs.com, and there's a patient section and a doctor section. Go to the patient section, there's videos, explains everything. But basically what that does, that identifies things that can trigger your thyroid to not function properly. We usually do array number 3, array number 4. You can do array number 2, which is for intestinal permeability issues. It gives us an idea of what the problem is there. And so, as long as, we do the testing, we're going to figure out, what's going on with you. So, there's another one that we do, array number 10. It's more in depth. We usually don't start out with that. But we do do that afterwards. if they're kind of plateauing. I just had a patient the other day that she's had autoimmune and she's had a problem for a long time, and so she's had a real problem with having bowel movements and stuff, and so she says she uses smooth tea and she uses chia seeds. So she was in her program, she was doing good, but we're still having, she just wasn't where I wanted her to be. So I said, you know what, Lisa, I think we need to do the array number 10. When the array 10 came back, she had a problem with chia seeds. Also, we found out that she had a problem with almonds, and she said, oh my gosh, I've been eating almonds as my snack, because she's further along in the program where we can reintroduce foods back in. So anyway, testing like that lets us know that, you know, we're not guessing, you know, with these patients. Just want to say hi to Mary Muehlhausen, Tyler Seville, Connie Baker. Thanks for the likes, showing the love. If you know someone's having a thyroid problem and you think this information is valuable, if you can share it for us, we can reach more people that way. I'd really appreciate it. The next thing we do is we do the ASI test, which is a swab, buccal swab, 4 different times during the day, and it gives us an accurate reflection of the patient's adrenals. If you're waking up in the morning, you're not tired, your cortisol levels are probably going to be low. If at night you're having a hard time going to sleep, it could be that your cortisol level is up high. It could be a gallbladder problem could affect that too. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, that's going to be the mesencephalic reticular activating system. It's the part of the brain that wakes you up, and unfortunately, it's waking you up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You're wide awake. If you wake up in the morning and you're just dead tired, but you slept 10 hours, then that's usually some indication you might have some adrenal fatigue. So the adrenal test, ASI, is going to let us know what your cortisol levels are at and what we need to do for you. The next thing that we do is we do a stool sample, and a lot of the stool samples you do, you send it in, you do a smear, they have it, and it kind of sits around. This one, you actually freeze the bowel movement, and then you overnight it, and then as it thaws, they work on it, and it preserves everything. So we're looking for H. pylori bacteria, we're looking for low-grade bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, parasites, protozoas, all those things that when the colon is inflamed, and if you have a belly bloat where your stomach pops out after you eat, you have a lot of swelling and inflammation, then a lot of times you have those in there. They might not be that big of a deal for a large population of patients, but patients that have thyroid problem and intestinal issues, it's a huge problem. So we have to figure out what those are. It checks for the good bacteria versus bad bacteria. It sees if you have any kind of infection. And it also lets us know if anything else is going on. It's a very good test, and we found a lot of problems with patients, and we were able to solve the problem with that. Other than that, once we get all the labs in, we're going to prioritize, and then we're going to see exactly what's going on with each patient. And then we're going to set up an area to go over the diet with them based on the labs. So we're not going to guess. I'll tell you how important, the labs are. I had this one patient, and she was a thyroid patient, and then when she came in, she goes, oh boy, when we're going to do the food testing, she goes, I hope it's not cheese. And so anyway, we tested her, it wasn't cheese, but she had really a lot of intestinal issues. So we said, probably going to take dairy out of your diet just because it can be inflammatory. So we took it out. And then when she got better, then the first thing she wanted to do was reintroduce dairy. So I said, you need to get some Horizon cheese, and or some kind of organic cheese, and do that. So anyway, Thursday night, afternoon when we talked to her, she went and bought it Friday. Then she had diarrhea for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. She called me Monday morning. I said, bring the packet in. So anyway, she says, I didn't think cheese was a problem for her. It didn't test that way. So anyway, she got Horizon cheese, but she got the grated cheese, and when I looked at it, I could see there was a shiny powder in there. And so we looked on there, and it was potato starch. They either use cornstarch or potato starch. And when we checked her cross-reacting foods, she had a problem with potatoes. So that's what was. If we didn't know that test, if we didn't do that test, we would think she had a problem with dairy. So it lets us know exactly what the problems are, and what to work on. Now you might say, oh, well, I've had food allergy testing done. Well, I had this one patient that he had a autoimmune thyroid, and he went to Mayo Clinic in 2000, did all the tests, and found out he had 4 food allergies. Comes back to Tulsa, he's going to all these different doctors, and finally goes back at 2005, do all the same tests. Now he's got 200 food allergies. Comes back to Tulsa, goes to all these different doctors, goes to Cleveland Clinic, and in Cleveland Clinic they do all the same tests, except this time on the food allergy he has over 100 food allergies, and they say go on a yeast-free diet. So anyway, obviously that didn't work, and then he finally came to us. We did this testing, we found out what the culprits were. Once that happens, your immune system starts going haywire, and your Th1 and Th2, which are the immune system identifier attackers, they go haywire, and they start attacking things that you really don't have a problem with. So it really helps us to be able to identify what the real problem is. So anyway, hopefully this will understand, and you can see how difficult these cases are. So we have all these different things that we have to look at, and all the patients are different. So anyway, if you know anybody that's having a problem with their thyroid, and they've gone to a doctor and they've tried different things, that maybe they've gone on the internet, maybe they've tried to do it themselves, and they're still having problems, share this with them. If you are one of those patients, you can call our office up and just say that you watch us on the Facebook Live. And we do a consultation exam and a report of findings at no charge, because a lot of these patients have lost hope. They think, how's this guy going to be any different? I'm trying to show you how I'm different, how I'm unique, and how we, go after these type of cases aggressively to figure that out for you. And I've showed you the different labs. So a lot of times those patients are giving up hope, so we want to remove any obstacles. So if you do have a problem, you can say you saw us here, and you'll have to fill out the paperwork. Paperwork is about 15, 16 pages, because you have to be a candidate here. If you have 14 out of 15 of the markers, we don't take your case. So that's why we ask so much information. And then we sit down and go over everything with you, and let you know if you are a candidate, and then what we need to go and what labs we need to do. So anyway, really appreciate everyone. If this was beneficial, please get the word out. We're just trying to tell more and more patients. I'd like to thank Tommy West for liking, Amber Ellison. I really appreciate everyone else that shared, and